Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting panel of the Luso-American Education Foundation, the conference that has been put forth since 1977. And we are excited, very, very excited about all of our panels, but super excited about today's panel. The focus is on education, Portuguese language teaching in California. And we want to thank, of course, always our sponsors, the Fundação Luso-Americana para o Desenvolvimento, FLAD, from Lisbon, also the Governo da Região Autónoma dos Açores, the government of the regional government of the Azores, as well as Luso Financial. And of course, we also want to thank Rádio Televisão Portuguesa from California, Televisão Portuguesa da Califórnia, and our very good friend João Manuel Dias, who is live streaming this as well as on Facebook and other platforms. Welcome to those who are participating here on the webinar, the different attendees, and welcome to those who are following us on Facebook Live and other social media venues. I'd like to also obviously let you know that the conference this year is hosted by the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, PBBI, created in February of 2019 at California State University, Fresno. The conference was supposed to be a live event, actually starting tomorrow and Friday and Saturday, and unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the worldwide pandemic, we are doing it virtually. And thanks to the Luso board for believing that this could be done virtually and allowing me the opportunity to take the conference to a different world. And as it was said by a couple of the attendees in the last few days, many of these conferences, many of these events will never be the same after the pandemic. Lots of different things. We may go back to being at a university or at a high school, but there will always be some kind of a virtual component. And so I'd like to ask Bernice Pelicas, who is the president of the Luso-American Education Foundation, to welcome everyone.
Okay, thank you, Denise. Welcome everyone on Facebook Live and everyone that's here on Zoom. And I'd like to give a special welcome to Duarte Silva and his participants on the panel who are joining us today, and to invite people who weren't able to join us on the other days. This is the 5th day of the 44th annual Luso-American Education Conference. So if you weren't able to join us before, please see us on YouTube. And I think you'll find it very interesting. The topics have been really great, and the panelists we've had really nice panelists, and I think everyone will find something that they can relate to. So again, welcome to everyone, and see you for the rest of the week until Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernice. And we also have the chairman of the board who will give the closing statement. Eduardo Eusebio, who was one of the original founders of he doesn't like me to mention that, but he was one of the original founders of the conference in 1977. But I keep on telling people he was only 14. And so now we'll turn it over to our moderator. We're always excited. This is actually the second event, the second panel that Professor Duarte Silva, Professor Emeritus from Stanford, and I know, looking at Duarte, he's not old enough to be emeritus. He, again, was a prodigy and started very, very young. And he does not look to be emeritus. Emeritus look like me or even older. And so he has been really a driving force behind this conference. When I first mentioned about doing this virtually, the first person I spoke to was Duarte. And Duarte is always, as you know, the most encouraging person in the world. He always has something positive to say, and he is full of energy, and that energy is always transparent and is always honest. He motivates everyone, and he certainly motivated me to do this. And when we spoke about the different panels, Duarte was gracious enough to accept to moderate 2 of them. He did one on the beginning of the conference, the very first, the inaugural, which was Portuguese, a global language. And today, this one on the Portuguese language teaching in California. So our good friend, Duarte Silva. Thank you again, my friend.
Thank you, Denise, and boa noite, everyone here. It's a pleasure to be back here to talk about language. We're finally talking about language and culture, which is our passion, my passion, and I think all the passion of everyone here on the screen and so many others that are listening to us on social media. Talking about language is always easy for me. And as Denise just referenced, on the first day, we took sort of a global look at Portuguese as a global language. We looked at language more from a linguistic perspective, and we talked about the big ideas of language, where language might go, Portuguese language might go in the 21st century. We had representation from Asia and South America and Europe, and of course, North America here. And it was an interesting discussion, and how do we keep our language purist and authentic and so forth. But today we're bringing it home. Basically, we're bringing it to our backyard here in California, because today's focus for this particular panel is on the strategies, the program models, the pedagogy that we have been using to teach Portuguese here in California, either in public schools, community schools, the district level, the efforts that have been made by the district level, higher education, and of course, other supporting organizations, because it takes a village to teach a language. It certainly takes a village and a lot more to start the program in a particular school district. And Denise aptly named this conference a community endeavor. And it is always a community endeavor. And I think as I look around the state, I cannot think of a Portuguese language program, be it in a community school or be it in a public school, where it hasn't been a community endeavor for sure, but certainly an endeavor of many. It takes a village, it takes all of us to implement a successful program. And nothing is more true for the Portuguese programs in California. I also, I want to thank the Luso American Education Foundation for having been there for the past 44 years. And as my friend Eduardo Zebio referenced on the opening statement, it was David Dolson, who I remember from the Department of Education. So all of you on the screen are too young to know David Dolson, but David Dolson used to be, okay, Isabel. David Dolson was, we call him the Portuguese consultant. He had other responsibilities, but also Julia Gonçalves. Remember Julia Gonçalves at the Department of Education? And she was the impetus, and she brought in David Dolson and immediately we started the programs in Artesia and in Hayward and San Leandro and San Jose and the Portuguese communities that were receiving a lot of immigrants. And we have evolved over the years. Our bilingual programs, of course, we had a little bit of a, upset to the bilingual programs, and the communities today are not as concentrated, and we cannot, muster enough, heritage speakers or native speakers to have a bilingual program. But on the other hand, our programs are flourishing with dual immersion programs, as well as with Portuguese as a world language in our elementary, middle schools, and high schools. So today's panel, we were particularly identified, the panel members were identified because they bring something unique to this panel. They bring a perspective of, or a model or a strategy that has, worked for their school district. And what we're here to do today is to share those models, share those strategies, share the community, goals and aspirations for how these programs can be strengthened and also can be supported by not only the schools, but the community at large. Again, back to the opening session, if you were not there, I was very encouraged by the Secretary of Portuguese Communities Abroad, Dr. Berta Nunes, who in her remarks in the opening day at the conference said, I translated her statement, but it says, our political priority, meaning Portugal's political priority, is to reinforce and expand the teaching of the Portuguese language in the US, especially in community schools organized by Portuguese associations and American schools. And I hope that Denise and all of us, we will remind Dr. Berta Nunes that she said this at the opening, in her opening remarks, and hope to, that she will continue to support, as she has, and the Portuguese institutions have. But we also have an opportunity here to do more in the United States and in California. And I think it's also time for us to step up and have our politicians, our superintendent of public instruction. He has a global California initiative that will double the number of students taking language by 2030. And I keep reminding him that we need to add more languages. And Portuguese is poised to be one of those languages. I remind him that he speaks Spanish. His mother's from Panama. And I remind him all the time that a lot of Latino students who are now taking Spanish are very interested in learning Portuguese and so forth. So I think we need to hold our politicians from Portugal and our politicians from California accountable to help us go further with our programs. And in order to go further, we need the expertise that we have assembled here on this panel. So I am excited to have them introduce themselves to you today. So you see their names on the screen right now. And I'm going to start with Isabel. And I'm going to have her to introduce herself to everyone that is listening to us here, describe the programs that she's responsible for as district superintendent that have to do with teaching and learning of Portuguese, the target student population that her programs are targeting, and then highlight any special features that her program has that we could share with the rest of the state, other districts that are interested in establishing a program, strengthening a program, or expanding a program that we could tap on Isabel and her staff to share and help other districts to accomplish what Isabel has been able to accomplish in her district. So Isabel, the mic is yours.
Okay, boa tarde a todos. Thank you, Duarte. So I will go ahead and start. I think Duarte starting with me because I have, other than Eduardo, maybe I've been, well, I don't want to call myself old, but I certainly have been involved in this educational process for a long time. So I actually, interestingly enough, the Luso Foundation was instrumental in my beginning to delve into Portuguese because I received one of their scholarships many moons ago and had the opportunity to go study in Coimbra. And because of that, it kind of piqued my interest. And then life happened and I ended up moving forward in this. So thank you, Eduardo, because back then I know he, even back then, he was very involved with that. So anyway, this is my 13th year as a superintendent for Hillmar Unified School District. Most of my experience and the reason I'm on this panel obviously is due to the educational participation and involvement that I have in the community and have had. I was very involved in the Portuguese, the George de Sena Portuguese Education School, the Portuguese Language School. I was also one of the founding members of the Portuguese Education Foundation of Central California. So my efforts have been around education. That's kind of my passion, my heart, and my soul. So currently, well, let me say that back in 1981, Eduardo and Duarte and some were talking about the bilingual program. In 1981, Hillmar Unified began with a Portuguese bilingual program with a kindergarten program, and I happened to be that kindergarten teacher. So I actually began the process of being involved. And I will say when I first started, I had no idea what that meant. They just wanted to hire me and they said, could I do this? And any new teacher says, well, of course I can. And I'll find out the details later. And it really began a wonderful career. So even through challenges that California had, like we had the Prop 227, where at that point many programs disappeared, not just Portuguese language programs, but Spanish language programs. We were able to hold on. So we held on. We no longer had a bilingual program. We had an enrichment program. So we were still able to work within the system to keep that going. So I think that has helped. Let's see, 4 years ago now, we began a Portuguese dual immersion program. So we have had Spanish dual immersion in our district, and we felt it was time to move into a Portuguese immersion program. We had to decide, really, we came to a crossroads. We were either going to move forward with a real language program, or we were going to continue to just provide these enrichment activities. And we decided at this point we could move forward with the program. There was more materials available, there was staff available, there was community interest. And so we moved forward with the dual language program. So our first group of students is now in 4th grade. We began with actually 31 students with in the Portuguese immersion program. As all of you that are educators know, 31 is not a good number in primary, because we like them in like 20s or 30s. So 31 created a challenge for us, but we decided anyone that was interested, we were going to move forward with. So that's what we've done. We have taught Portuguese as a second language, both at our middle school and at our high school. So we continue to do that. Matter of fact, we most recently hired Michelle as our Portuguese teacher at our high school. I'm very happy to say that our current Portuguese teacher moved to administration. Although we hated losing her, it's exciting to see that she's moving on into an administrative role where she also can have some influence over what happens in schools. So we have approximately, I'd say, between 300 and 400 students total that are enrolled in Portuguese, in some form of Portuguese. As our students move up, every year we add a grade in the dual language program. So eventually our goal is to have a dual language program, K-8, and then obviously at the high school, we're a unified district, we're a TK-12 district. So that is real nice because we get to have the opportunity to have that vertical alignment, to create that vertical piece that many people can't do. So that's basically who we are. We're a fairly small school district. We have 2,400 students. So I wouldn't say we're a large school district. We have actually many students coming into our district right now due to the language programs that we offer. So we have many inter districts coming in, which is always a good selling point. You're talking about what creates, how can we create this? Well, when a district can bring in enrollment means, obviously it means money into your district, and it means you can continue to grow a program. So it is nice to have students come in specifically, in our case, for this program. As far as thinking about, I should step back and also say we have applied and received several grants over the year. One being the Star Talk. We participated in the Star Talk program actually for 10 years until we could no longer apply. Unfortunately, this last year, Portuguese was taken off of the list, which we are still quite upset about, but we could no longer apply as a Portuguese program. But throughout we did whenever we could apply, and that brought in students into a summer program. Renat was one of our teachers, so was Michelle. And so we brought people basically from all over California that came and stayed. We had a K-12 program, although I'd say our focus was K-6. And we had, oh gosh, I'd say, upwards of 200 students coming into the program. We would have to start waiting lists. So there was definitely a need and a desire. When I look at what are the things that we can do, one of the things Duarte talked about is what can we do to keep it going? Well, coming from my perspective is we have to integrate language programs into a public school system. As much as I totally support the community schools, I think they're awesome and wonderful. I think these programs will only they can only get entrenched if we really incorporate them into the public educational system. So I think that is where it comes from. So I've already taken too much time, so I will pass on the baton to someone else.
No, you didn't, Isabel. Thank you so much. We're going to travel a little south and go to Lucy and have her explain our district program from her district perspective. Lucy?
Boa noite a todos. So my name is Lucy Van Syak, and I am from the Tulare Joint Union High School District. And I'm sorry, my home phone is ringing in the background. Not sure if you can hear that or not. So we, as Isabel was speaking, I am also a recipient of the Luso America Education Foundation Scholarship way back when I was in high school. And I think back then I got the one that was renewed for 4 years. So I think I got $1,000 and it was renewable for 4 years, which was wonderful. And I very much appreciated that. So I am an assistant principal in our district. I oversee curriculum, instruction, and technology and assessment is what I oversee. And obviously Portuguese falls under that, but I take no credit for the wonderful Portuguese program that we have. Mr. Borges did a wonderful job in our district, and the administration in our district had a vision way before I was even part of the district, even as a student. So Mrs. Galucci used to teach Portuguese in our district, and I'm not sure how long she actually taught Portuguese at Tulare Union. And I know that I was in high school between 1990 and 1994, and she was a Portuguese teacher there. And I knew she taught Portuguese there prior to me and a few years after I left. So at some point, and I should know this history, someone in our district thought it was really important to offer not only Spanish, and we also offered French, but also Portuguese. We have a lot of Portuguese immigrants in our area, so I'm sure that was probably one of the reasons. I am excited and proud to say that at one point, we only had Portuguese at Tulare Union. And we were able to expand that to Tulare Western and to our new school, our newest school, Mission Oak. And today, I was just looking up our numbers just to see where we're at. And we started at Tulare Western with a part-time teacher that only taught 4 classes of Portuguese. And right now she's teaching 6 classes of Portuguese just in the last 2 years. And she's teaching Portuguese 4. So she has from Portuguese 1 all the way to Portuguese 4. And then Tulare Union, they have 5 classes of Portuguese this year, and Mission Oak has 4. So we are offering 15 sections of Portuguese in our district right now. We have a total of 423 students in our Portuguese program. So it's exciting. I know that when I was principal at Tulare Western, that was one of our priorities. We wanted to make sure to keep our Portuguese program. I think it's important to give students choices. And Portuguese is very well and alive in our community right now. And it's important for our students to have the opportunity to take the language and learn the Portuguese language. And as Mr. Borges knows, we've had more and more Hispanic students want to take Portuguese in our district. And that's also exciting. One of the newest things that happened is the Newel test that was administered this past spring. And honestly, I think that if we had stayed in school and we didn't have to go into distance learning in March, we would have had more students take the test. But I learned about the assessment, and we talked a little bit about the biliteracy program. So we don't have a Portuguese assessment that equates to the AP language assessment for Spanish. So as I was talking to our Portuguese teachers, one of the things we talked about was using the Newel assessment as that level of assessment. And if students do well on the assessment, then that qualifies them for the biliteracy seal. So we actually originally we had 23 students interested in taking the test. We only, with the distance learning and all that was going on in spring, we only actually had 8 students who took the assessment. And out of those 8 students, 7 of them got a 3 or higher. The majority of the scores were a 4 and a 5.
Great.
I just met with our world language department chairs today, actually. And one of the things we discussed is how do we promote that assessment? And at our district, we are going to treat it like the AP test. We have a reduced cost for AP tests in our district. Students either pay $10 if they're on free and reduced lunch, or $40 if they are not on free and reduced lunch. And really, we should include the Newel assessment as part of our AP program and allow students to also to subsidize the cost of the assessment, which we already did in the spring, and continue to advertise that. I think it's important for our Portuguese students to also be able to have a biliteracy seal on their diploma. And that means to be biliterate. So we have to make sure that we push our students so that when they graduate from high school, they do have a command of the language. And so that's one of the things we talked about today. And one of the things that I think we can continue to improve on in our district and capitalize upon.
Thank you very much, Lucy. And we're going to be talking more about the Newel. And I appreciate the remarks that you made and the statistics that you gave us. That's a big question for us. Okay, let's travel to the Bay Area and ask Luis to share about his San Jose program, which I believe might be the oldest program in California, as far as elementary as well as secondary. Luis?
Boa noite a todos. Obrigado, Duarte. Thanks for this opportunity to join your wonderful panel here. My name is Luis Nunes. Like Duarte said before, I came from the East Coast to teach Portuguese here at San Jose High School. I've been very lucky these last 10 years. I teach at a San Jose High School. It is an international baccalaureate school. We do offer a seal of biliteracy along with the IB test. Students that pass the test in Portuguese, and they also have to pass the English test. Of course, they do receive the seal of biliteracy. We've had excellent success with that. I am the advisor for the Portuguese Club. I usually draw somebody from our community to teach a folklore dance because I don't know them myself, but I always try to learn and then practice with the students, and we participate in some school affairs. Like we have an international night where the students do their folklore dance. We've also participated with Denise Borges' group at Berkeley and also at San Jose State, and joined them in some of the dances. We do a food fair where, and it was mentioned here before, the linguiça sandwiches are awesome and everybody loves them. We're just trying to reach out to students to try something new, and they do. They love this stuff, you know. So I teach Portuguese year 1 through 4. Years 1 and 2 are the middle years program, and years 3 and 4 are the IB program. So at the end of the 3rd and 4th year, students are eligible to take the IB test, which is a test that incorporates reading and writing and listening and speaking. The tests are then sent to the IB office, and they correct them there, and then we get the grades later on. We've had excellent success. Usually at the end of 3rd year, students, at least the last 5 or 6 years, students have been able to pass the IB test at the end of their 3rd year Portuguese, which is great. And then they do qualify to get that seal of biliteracy, which I think is very important. The students think is very important. Our clientele, we have approximately, well, our school is 83% Latinos, and those are our biggest clients. And we have just some really, really amazing kids that are very interested in our language, and they really want to learn, and they're interested in the films and the literature that we do in the last 2 years, and they want to learn about Fernando Pessoa because he's a strange guy, and they want to learn about Essa de Queiroz because he's, you know, a realist, and the stuff that he talks about can really, the students can really connect with, you know. So it's just been a lot of fun teaching these kids, and our heritage speakers make up only about 5% of my class, but it's all good, you know. They're all learning, and as long as there's some there, I love it. You know, I like to see some kids who are Portuguese or are Portuguese descendants and are still interested. Ainda querem falar com os seus avós, não é? They want to speak with their grandparents still and have a little communication, and I love it, and I love it. So it's just really been great. wanted to identify, I can identify with what Isabel said earlier on about being a young teacher and making things work. And I remember my first year teaching at the middle school that I went to in Massachusetts, New Bedford, Massachusetts. And the principal says, so you're here to teach a bilingual class. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. I teach Portuguese. And he says, no, you're going to teach algebra. And you're going to have to make it work. And I said, okay, bilingual teaching and algebra. And I made it work that first year, and it continued after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. Two important points I think that we need to keep in mind as we go into a discussion here. The IB program is an excellent model, and there's not a lot of IB programs across the country in Portuguese. And it's an excellent model that I think maybe, you know, Hilmar and Tulare might want to look into. And the statistic you shared, 5% are only the heritage students. And I think that's where Portuguese is going. It's mainstreaming Portuguese for, you know, California's population, which is, you know, as you said, 80, you know, over 50% Latino. In your case, it's like 80% and so forth. So the more we can market, and I know Nancy is nodding here. So I think the more we can market Portuguese as a world language, as a global language, and certainly as a second and a third language for those students, because when I used to walk into your classroom, you know, I saw the Korean students, and I saw, you know, the whole spectrum of the Asian students in the program, and the Vietnamese students taking, you know, Portuguese, and also in the neighboring district, East Side Union High School District, the Vietnamese students asking the district, why don't you offer Portuguese? Because my friends over at San Jose High are able to take Portuguese. And that puts a little bit of pressure on the school system to do that. So I think those two components, I'm so glad you highlighted those for us. Okay, let's go a little bit into higher ed here and listen to our good friend Renato Alvin. Tell us what's going on in your neck of the woods in higher education.
Hi, good evening. My name is Renato Alvin. I'm an assistant professor of Portuguese and Spanish at California State University, Stanislaus, and I'm the director of the Portuguese program. We offer a minor in Portuguese, and we have currently 77 students taking Portuguese in 3 different sections. We just restructured the Portuguese minor because students used to have to take 24 credits, 24 units to receive a minor. That's 4 years of classes for just a minor, just so to speak, a minor. So now with the new structure, students are receiving a minor with 18 units. Mm-hmm. 2 first language classes, the lower division classes are 4 units, and 1 upper division for another upper division with 4 units, and 2 more culture, literature, cinema, etc. With 3 units. It's interesting what Luis mentioned about Latino students or Hispanic students. They are the ones who usually talk about the excitement of learning Portuguese first because they say, this is so close to Spanish. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, they go like, yes, but it's a different language. And then the heritage speakers, which probably is about 10%, they keep talking, and the Spanish speakers tend to be more quiet. It's an interesting shift, but what calls my attention is that for these students, or most of them, I would say 90%, these Portuguese is not in their major. Mm-hmm. They are required to take some C2 class, and they pick Portuguese. And I need to I need to retain these students. I need to keep them. It's a big challenge, as we all know. And one of the strategies that we thought that would be the most important was to make this minor faster. So students could graduate with a minor and think that it is useful. We've been also working a lot to educate students towards the importance of a second, and most of the cases, a third language. Our students already speak Spanish. So a third language in the job market, this is very valuable. And this is what I try to bring to my students as a strategy. If you add 1 or 2 years, you can add to your resume that you have intermediate level of a third language. Here at the university in the Department of Philosophy and Modern Languages, we have a lot of freedom to create and establish these bridges that are so necessary. And I am part of I'm the advisor also for the Portuguese club. And one of the tactics that we have used is start through the curriculum, is start a connection with high schools. Turlock High School, we have Laura Mann and Joseph Sousa, and also Pittman High that offers Portuguese. Our Portuguese clubs connected, and it was interesting because it happened just in February, and right after we didn't have more visits, but we had a campus visit from both clubs, or representations from Turlock High and Pittman High, to also bring some sense of how the students can bring the Portuguese that they already have from high schools, and they can use it towards to their advantage in college and get a minor even faster.
Thank you. I think Stanislaus is uniquely positioned because I think it's the only state university, for that matter, any university, that has in its service region programs in Portuguese from K through 12, with Hilmar helping there and Turlock and so forth. So let's talk a little bit more about the high school program in Hilmar from Michelle. Michelle? Good.
Yes.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi, good evening. So my name is Michelle Machado, and I am happy to be the new Portuguese teacher here at Hilmar High School. In the past, I have taught at the community school that Isabel mentioned, George de Sena. I am now the principal there as well. Right now we're taking a little break since with the pandemic, but we hope to start again either in January, for sure next year. I also have been taught at Star Talk, the Portuguese Language Academy, and have participated in the Portuguese Education Foundation as well. So I've been in a lot of Portuguese education aspects in the community. So just having began here at Hilmar High School, I really want to, my goal is to breed Portuguese teachers in a way. I don't know if it's going to be possible, we'll see, but inspire more students to want to continue learning Portuguese, maybe going to Stanislaus and continuing getting the minor in Portuguese, and then possibly being Portuguese teachers, because it's really hard to find Portuguese teachers. And I think if I can inspire the students to want to pursue that, then I think that we will have more success in the future.
No question about it. And I know the right person to help you do that, and that is our friend Nancy Perez. Nancy, will you introduce yourself to the panel?
Hi, yes, thank you. So my name is Nancy Perez, and I do work also in the Central Valley. I work in Visalia as a Spanish teacher. I've taught all levels of Spanish. And now I'm doing the AP, Literature and Language. I'm also a club advisor, and I'm the World Language Department chair there. But I think what I can offer Michelle and all of the teachers here is two wonderful organizations that I'm a part of. One of them being the CLTA, the California World Language, California Language Teachers Association. And I've been in the part of their, the organization since 1997 in different capacities, but now I am the president-elect for that. And so what do we do? Well, if you're not familiar with CLTA, we offer annual conferences throughout California. We do one in the north, the south, and the center. I don't know if you remember, any of you, that 2016, it was hosted in Visalia. And just so that you know, that 2023 is also coming back to Visalia. So yay. CLTA also offers a lot of professional development opportunities. Right now, we're doing webinars to help teachers with all languages prepare themselves better for this, this pandemic and all this virtual learning. And so we have that, but we also offer opportunities for teachers to get scholarships, especially new teachers. And we also have a recognition for fellow teachers and students, including our dear Dennis Borges, who a couple of years ago got the Outstanding Teacher of the Year at the conference in Monterey. So yes. And so we do a lot of those incentives. So we want to bring all these world language teachers back to our conferences. One of the things also the CLTA has, it has about 15 affiliates. That means, like the local chapters that we have. And I know here in the Central Valley, we have the Central Valley World Language Association. And so they do things like world language fairs. They do camps, Spanish, French. It will be wonderful if we can get some partnership with the Portuguese community and also offer that to the students. That will be like a weekend of intensive immersion Portuguese for the students. And believe me, those are the things that the students remember the most out of the teaching, being in the classroom too. The other organization that I belong to is it's a Central California World Language Project, and that I serve as a site director. We have 7 projects throughout California, part of the California World Language Project. And what we do there, we service teachers. We provide professional learning opportunities for them too. And I know many of the teachers in the Valley have attended. I know right now, Belina, and I'm gonna say her last name wrong, Fiejo, it's also one of our lead presenters. And so we provide professional development for teachers. So this year, what we're doing is we're offering, everything is virtual. And so we have workshops for them to, again, prepare themselves, get strategies, how they can, to better prepare themselves to provide the students with the tools that they need. So this is open to all of the language, not just Spanish. And so it'll be nice to have, more partnerships with the Portuguese community. So yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you, Nancy. Wow, I like the idea of a Portuguese camp. I love going to language camps, be there German or French or Spanish. I've been to a lot of the camps, and I have participated in those. I have to say that kids come out of those camps extremely enthusiastic about language. They perform well, and it's not, Bernice, it's not unlike at the convention when our youth, performs. So they have a whole weekend immersed in the language and culture. And I love the idea, Nancy, and I think maybe it's something we should pursue collectively, is offering the language camp. Okay, let's move on to question number 2. I think the people in the audience can see the most incredible panel that we have assembled of members here that represent diverse perspectives. And we're going to pose some questions to them after they did their wonderful introductions. And the first one is, we feel very good about our past accomplishments. We feel very good about what's going on. We feel very good about the programs that are going on in our community schools and are beginning to show up in public schools. And I believe that Isabel made the point, we have to integrate our programs into the California public school system. And I think all of us probably on the panel would agree with her. I certainly do. But I'm going to pose the question right now, based on everything that we have and everything that we're proud of, our numbers are still relatively small across the state. So from your perspective, what policy, curricular, or pedagogical tactics could we pursue in order to strengthen existing and create new Portuguese language and cultural programs in California and beyond. And I know Lucy is a curricular person, and she's also a policy person from the district level. I'm going to start with you. What kind of ideas do you have on how we possibly could, take some, curricular or policy initiatives that would, strengthen, enlarge, expand our programs in California, more access to all students to learn Portuguese. Lucy, will you like to broach that for us?
Well, I think that one of the things that comes to mind is, first of all, how do we publicize the schools that currently offer Portuguese, and how do we put Portuguese on the map per se? Mm-hmm. And what comes to mind is sometimes the need for I think it was Michelle who was talking about her goal is to inspire others to become Portuguese teachers. Mm-hmm. I know that in the Central Valley, when we hired our last Portuguese teacher, we had a really hard time finding somebody to teach the Portuguese language. So I think one of the things is, do we have, if we want to start programs in schools, do we have candidates out there to take those programs? That's one of the things that comes to mind. The other thing, when you were talking about how do we connect the high school program to the college program, and how do we build that up? And I think that's one of the ways to go about it. When we talk about you were talking about the IB program, we don't have an IB program in our school. We have an AP program. And sometimes we have kids that they're credit chasers, right? They're looking for that bump in their GPA. They're looking for that status, the AP status. Especially depending on where you go to school, you want as many AP classes as possible, because that college is going to judge you based on how many AP classes were offered in your district and how many you took. So, I was looking and I was curious, there's all kinds of AP programs in other world languages. Why not Portuguese? How do we put that? How do we start that? And I don't know that, but that would be a very interesting question. And why doesn't the College Board provide an AP
We made a valiant effort to do that. And I can talk to you more about it, but I don't want to take your time right now.
Right, yes. But I think that's, how do we encourage our students to take these courses and connect them to college programs that they then can matriculate into, or at least dual college credits? Could we create some partnerships like that? That would incentivize students to take the Portuguese courses in our district.
Great idea. I love the pathways to college and the dual credit. That would be a really good idea. Thank you, Lucy. Okay, let's ask Luis, for his thoughts on any curricular or policy that would enable us to expand, Portuguese to other high. As far as I know, in San Jose right now, only the San Jose Academy, as it was called, has Portuguese. So any policy or curricular, issues or initiatives that we could pursue that might expand the teaching and learning of Portuguese in San Jose or any place in California. Luis? You're still on mute.
Thanks. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit at a loss here with an answer for this. I had a conversation about this not long ago, and with a colleague of mine, and it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Like, do we get more Portuguese teachers first, or do we open more programs first? If we open the programs, do we have the teachers to fill them? If we bring the teachers and then we don't have programs for them to start working? So it really is a little bit beyond my realm. I think I would have to leave those decisions for Isabel and Lucy and yourself, and Denise, who are highly involved in schools and policy and can open these programs. Bruna Ferreira is one of your teachers. She was one of my students years ago. For me to see one of my students leave and become a Portuguese teacher, hey, I win. But
You're done.
I'm done.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Nancy, do you have any
yet.
thoughts, coming from a broader, language teaching association?
I do. And recruitment is always a challenge, right? It's a challenge for us, it's a challenge for Spanish, for Portuguese. And so what I'm thinking about is you're going to need the network of dynamic teachers, teachers that are willing to go the extra mile, right? And so where do you start? I know you're talking about the connection for high school and college. For me, for example, and even for us to recruit Spanish students, we go to the middle school. So we start in the middle school. So, you can start as early as middle school to get the students hooked into the language, learning a different language. And so there's different incentives for them. But the most important one, of course, is to learn about the culture. And to make it interesting, to make it like Denise's classes. I love Denise's classes because it's always interactive. And so this is what we want the students to do. And so we do want to visit the students. We want to start maybe in high school a club for future teachers, so Portuguese teachers. So even if the high school is not teaching Portuguese, they can start a club where they can start doing activities and get everybody else involved. There's always a difference between native speakers and non-native speakers. We're gonna have those in all languages. But I think if you start preparing the students, if we start, planting the seed of becoming teachers and in the future, you can get a lot of students involved.
Isabel, any thoughts to add to Nancy's and Lucy's?
Oh, I see Lucy raise her hand, so I'll let her go first and then I'll speak.
Well, I was going to say what I should have mentioned is that I love what you're doing in your district. And the answer really is the dual immersion program. If we could just get our elementary schools to offer Portuguese as dual enrollment immersion piece, that would be amazing. I'm excited to hear in the future like how you sustain that program and how it's going to impact your enrollment in high school at one point. So I forgot to mention that piece, but I think I'm impressed that you've been able to start that program. And I think that it would be wonderful if you could share in conferences or other areas how we would replicate that in other communities, such as like Tulare, and I think even Artesia, I could see a base for that. Yeah. Because of the Portuguese immigrants or the Portuguese heritage that exists here. Sorry.
Isabel, we do not only expect you to sustain your model, but to, make the model that the other districts can follow, as you did with StarTalk. And in just 10 years, you had a model program. So we're going to be looking to you for the model to implement the dual, immersion program in different communities. It could be San Jose, it could be Artesia, it could be Tulare, it could be even, communities we're not thinking of, because, it doesn't have to have the root or the base of the Portuguese, heritage speakers. So Isabel, your turn.
Well, I guess as I'm thinking, well, first of all, I think every community is unique. And so the approach really needs to match your community. So first of all, you need to know your community to know how the process rolls out. I do think there are some basics, that probably apply to every district. So, and I can tell you, we started, even though we were looking at offering language programs and we were looking at Portuguese and Spanish, many years ago when we started our dual language program, and it's, gosh, at least 20 years old by now, we tried starting Portuguese, or we looked at it and kind of analyzed and realized we couldn't be successful. We didn't have all the pieces we needed. At that time, there was not enough curriculum. We did have some teachers because we had worked in the bilingual, but the curriculum was very limited. So we would only be able to go, to about second grade. And then we really were not going to be developing that CALP language in students. So we decided that was not the right time. So I think, knowing the community, knowing when the right time is, evaluating all the factors comes into play. But in our district, we strongly believe, and I guess I strongly believe, I do strongly believe that languages open up many opportunities in life and go beyond just learning these words, but it helps you be an inclusive person as you're looking and learning about other languages, other cultures, etc. So we start with that recruitment of we believe that all children should have the opportunity to learn a second language, to learn about another culture, to learn about those that maybe are not exactly like yours, like the culture you've grown up in. So that's one of the things we start with is why Portuguese? Because when our children come in and beginning in that kindergarten level, and so I think we need to think about that, why Portuguese at all levels. So in my case, why Portuguese in the kindergarten dual language program, but then we have to tell kids again, why Portuguese when you're in high school? So I think it's looking at that, you know, why do that? Number one, why a language? So that just encompasses the importance of the learning of all languages. And then then we need, you know, to talk about, you know, why Portuguese? Why is that the language? And then we've talked about moving beyond the Portuguese population. This is not really about developing the Portuguese language among those who have avós and avós, although that certainly is part of it. I think if a language is going to continue and a culture is going to continue, it needs to move beyond its own ethnic group. So we are very cognizant about that. And we talk about, you know, there's many ways you might come into the program. It might be because you want your children to be able to speak a little bit to avó and avó, or you're going to go, you know, to the Azores and you want, you know, your kids to be able to speak. But it might just be because it's important to learn about another language and culture. And then we talk about how that's going to be the gateway to even another language. And a natural gateway is Portuguese to Spanish. Yep. So isn't that awesome? You may come from the Latinx community and you would do great in a Portuguese language program because you're going to learn Portuguese and then you're going to move into a Spanish program. So that whole idea of how does Portuguese open up the doors to other languages. So we have also marketed the program beyond the Portuguese people. I think you have to do that. So I think our Latinx community, I think, is quite interested. We talk about that at our high school. If you speak Spanish, well, heck, why don't you take a Portuguese? We also need to look at, we do not currently have, but are looking at a Portuguese for Spanish speakers class. So those are natural bridges. And then also we want to have a Spanish for Portuguese speakers program. So that benefits both and doubles your language capacity, I guess, is what I'm thinking. So I'd say that's the thing that I think I would do as we think about replicating. But I think the most important thing is give them a taste of the language and culture. It's like, let them feel the success. And if you want to do it through a summer program, awesome. They're going to experience it and be thirsty for more. If you're going to do it through a Portuguese, language community school, awesome. You're giving them 1 or 2 days a week and they're going to want more. So they become thirsty for more. You do a Saturday festival and whatever, or a folklore festival, all those things I think create the opportunity to give you just a little taste, and you want them to come back for more. So I think that's real important that we can get through many areas. It can be through folklore, it can be through carnaval, and that maybe you're saying these words that you don't even really understand a lot of those words, but it makes you thirsty for more. So I think we have to look at all of those avenues as coming into learning and in improving and increasing our language programs.
Create that need. I think, Michelle, you wanted to jump into the conversation. I was ready to move on, but looks like you wanted to say something. Michelle?
Oh, I was just hearing Isabel speak. I have a student this year who she participated in the past in the Star Talk program. Was in the Spanish Immersion program. And this year she's taking Spanish and Portuguese. And she's hoping to take the seal of biliteracy for both. So, and she's doing amazing, but she isn't even, she's not even, her home language is English.
Yes.
So, yeah, but she wants to be proficient in both languages.
That's the global citizen we're all striving to create for the 21st century. So congratulations. I want to move on to a very important question that was alluded here before. Lucy mentioned the Newel Exam. And I know that a lot of people do not know a lot about the Newel Exam, but basically when we were trying very hard to establish a Portuguese program in AP with the College Board, and we tried extremely hard. And I thank FLAD for offering some money up front, and and a lot of effort on all of our parts. There, we did a lot of studies and potential students. I invested a lot of time on my time, and so did Denise, and so did so many others across the nation. It was a national effort. And at the end of the day, the College Board denied because the Koreans were knocking on the door, and the Arabic community was knocking at the door. The Russian community was knocking at the door. So basically, and I think what we failed to do, and what the American councils, the creator of the Newel Exam, and College Board failed to do, is to publicize that the Newel is equivalent to the AP exam, okay? And I think we need to publicize that among ourselves and among everyone. And I've talked to the American Council, I've talked to the College Board, and say we really need to get the word out. But literally, the Newel exists in Arabic, in Russian, in Portuguese, and in Korean. And basically, it was, the College Board said, no, we're not going to develop any more AP exams, but we will allow the American Councils, which is another organization, to develop these exams, and we will send, and they did send a memo to all the colleges and the universities stating, we acknowledge the Newel Exam, and we are totally cognizant that it's parallel and should be given the same level of respect that the AP is. Well, we know that hasn't quite happened yet. Okay, let me bring it home now to us. You read the Portuguese press. At the opening session, it was referenced several times here that we're very proud because our Portuguese students did very well, as we always know they do. However, Denise and I were not as excited when we heard the news because only 116 students took the test nationally. They did very well. 75% got a 5, which congratulations to the teachers who prepared those students. Congratulations to the students. I don't want to take anything away, but we need to increase that number to 1,000 and beyond. California has about 1,500 students taking Portuguese. Massachusetts has like 6,000 students taking Portuguese. Nationally, we believe, from the statistics we did for College Board, that about 25,000 students are studying Portuguese and so forth. And 116 is a very small number. And we're proud of those students, but we really need to increase this number. Any ideas from any of you how we could, motivate our teachers to prepare, to motivate these students. Teachers motivate students to take the exam. Students do not like to take tests. They run away from exams. But we could bring out why take the test, why taking the test will, give you a leg up when you enroll in college. Because if you go to college and you say, I took the Newel exam, the university will give you the equivalent of the AP credits for the classes that you took at the high school. So, once we inform the students, we inform the teachers. But how can we get this message across in a more efficient way? I'm going to start with Nessie this time because she has a lot of experience with AP. She's an AP presenter, AP teacher, and so forth. So I know that you probably sometimes have to recruit some of your Latino students to enroll in AP as well as to take the test in AP. So any ideas from you to all of us on how we can motivate our students to take
So what happened with us, it was like we were within the district, in all the AP teachers, we were losing a lot of students when it came to Spanish 1, 2, and 3. We were losing them, they were not continuing with AP. And so we started digging and surveying and doing all this research. And so what happened is that they got, we found out that students get intimidated. Okay, so we started giving them a little bit more incentive. We say, okay, we're going to separate the classes. We're going to separate the heritage speakers versus the non-native speakers. And so, but one of the biggest buying point for us was, or for the selling point for us, was the seal of biliteracy. Because all the students want to get the seal of biliteracy. And so right now, we moved from one class of AP non-natives to 3 classes in my school. And so at the other districts. So we just need to, within our teachers, we also need to accommodate and modify our teaching based on their skills and based on the, the level of the language that they're bringing in. So, those two things. And again, for us, starting from the middle school, we have the level 1 in middle school. So when they come to us to high school, they have the opportunity to go to Spanish 2, 3, 4, which is the AP language, and then even 5, which is the AP literature. And so that's how we're increasing the numbers. But so yeah, and just one of the other main things is like one of the teachers said in one of the workshops that we had in the summer seminar is like, we're not going to students are not going to come out of the high school with a PhD in grammar, in the language. So we're not. So yes, we need to teach them the grammar, but also we need to do cultural events, we need to do all those projects, all those extra, just going outside the classroom and all the research that they can do. Even if they cannot visit the country that they're studying, they can do it virtually. So all of those things are very important for the students because that's what's going to stick to them. Like I was talking before, the Spanish camp, the French camp, those activities, they're the ones that are going to bring more students because students talk, and so this is we want to get them involved. We want them to buy into our programs and learn the language, learn the culture, but most importantly, also have fun. And then eventually, of course, they're going to go ahead and they're going to be successful because they're going to learn because they want to learn, not because we're forcing them to learn and having them memorize all these things. So
I heard 2 things from you. We need to connect more closely the Newel exam to the syllabi literacy and say, if you take the syllabi literacy, if you want the syllabi literacy, you take the Newel exam and that will be your assessment for Portuguese. And that's something that is, certainly qualifies. And I also heard that we may need to adopt the curricula in order to be able to meet the students where they are and not make it so intimidating because AP curricula, AP courses can be intimidating. Denise, you wanted to add something to the conversation?
If I may, is that possible?
Please.
Will you allow me?
Yes.
Good. Well, I just wanted to add 2 things. And first of all, Duarte and I have been extremely interested in Newel for many reasons, but there's been a lot of misinformation about the Newel. And I think I'd like to set a little bit of the record straight, starting from the Portuguese government, who is promoting it as something that it's not. And giving the false sense that it is something that it's not. If you read the Portuguese press, it says that that with the Newel, students are getting college credits. Well, they're not. And so I think we need to, be cognizant of that because they're not getting it. And indeed, I don't know how the UC system is, and I haven't checked on that. But today, or actually the last 3 days, through a guidance counselor at Fresno State, I knew that Fresno State did not accept the Newel results, or the Newel is not one of their testing that they accept, and so we had to do some research, and the counseling department was great. And so I thought it was like university by university. I was kind of not aware of that. It's all the CSU systems. So automatically we have to do something about that. And we have to tell Portugal to stop lying, or as it's called in today's world, fake news. And we have to basically do this, which is, okay, this exam needs to be approved and considered for points, for the credits at the CSUs, because that's where the majority of our students go. Community college or the CSU system. 500,000 students in California attend the CSU systems. And where we have Portuguese programs, Fresno State now with a Portuguese program, Renato with a minor, we'll have a minor here shortly next semester, we hope. And so we have San Jose State has Portuguese. San Diego State has also an excellent Portuguese, and there's others. Fullerton has Portuguese, etc. So we need to get a little bit of a lobbying system to get Newel to be approved by the CSU system, because without it, I think that's one of the reasons, and I think Lucy touched upon that, that's one of the reasons why the students are not really into it. Why am I going to take a test? I mean, they'll only take a test in my classroom because they get a grade and there's something out of it. Why are you going to take a test if you're not going to get anything out of it? I mean, you will get the seal of biliteracy, yes, But if we can get those 3 units, as Lucy said, the ones who are chasing those units, and those units are very important, because if you can enter a college with 15 units, you're going to save your parents a lot of money.
Yep.
And yourself. And so we need to do that. And Portugal needs to kind of step back a little bit. It needs to be a community. And I think we have the power within the community and the lobbying forces to put it forth. And I believe with that, and there was actually a question, that, if you don't mind, Duarte, that I can put. There was a teacher that said something interesting, which is, you know, we need to prepare the teachers for it, because the IB program that Luis is very successful with, you know, the teachers are prepared. The AP tests, as Nancy said, there's, you know, there's oodles of workshops and summer programs and things like that. So it's not fair, also from my perspective, and I'm not teaching high school, but if I was, it's not fair from a high school teacher, from Michelle's perspective, to all of a sudden, you know, at the end of the school year, you expect 25 of your students to take a test. Take a test for what? You know, it's not teaching to the test. It's just, we need to have, as you mentioned, what a little bit more of that. So I think there needs to be a little bit more of a lobbying from our community with the CSU system. And also, you know, with the Newel.
I think the CSU system is the place to start, because first of all, 24 campuses, 500,000 students, and the CSU system has a foreign language council. I think the foreign language council would be the right place to take this issue to them and appeal to them and say, here's you know, what is supposed to be the equivalent of the AP, and how about putting it on a map as one of the accepted tests for college credit, you know, for students who take the courses in high school. So that's a very good idea. Anybody else want to add anything or any other idea for how we can more, you know, make Newel a more attractive exam or for the students? Any other ideas from the panel? Anybody want to step in?
I just want to add to what Denise was saying. It's not only a selling point because they are getting credits for, well, they would get credits for college courses, but also it starts them for that Portuguese minor. So it gives them a jump start.
Great idea.
In getting that Portuguese minor.
So we can connect it to the syllabi literacy and the Portuguese minor. So those are very valuable assets that I think students and parents would be interested in. Any other idea from the panel? Luis, you going to say something? No? Go ahead.
No. I just have to, como é que se diz em português? Vender a minha própria sardinha. Because the IB program, and I did try to sell the students on taking the Newel test, but that's one of the things that they said is like, well, we take the IB test and we're getting college credit. We can start on a minor in college, so it saves time and money, and we get the syllabi literacy, you know. So let's just stay on that, and they opted to just stick to the IB, you know.
Okay, I'm gonna move on, and the next question I'm gonna ask all of you. It was alluded to almost by all of you, and it's about teacher preparation, teacher recruitment. So I'm going to ask all of you to reflect for a bit, and can you offer any thoughts for how we could recruit, prepare, certify, and support a great number of educators who are qualified to assume teaching positions in what I hope will be expanded Portuguese programs. So how can we go about, first of all, is the recruitment, second is the preparation, but that third piece, the mentoring, is extremely important. So how can we go about, you know, engaging in all of those? And maybe Nancy is ready for an answer here. Nancy? Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, well, when the recruitment happens, we'll be talking about, you know, not wait until the students get to the university, because by then it's gonna be too late. So start in the college, maybe start even in the high school, you know, start preparing them and so forth. I know with the California World Language Project and CLTA, we have a program that some of you are familiar with that is called Summer Seminar. So we invite students from the university from all over California to come and stay with us for a week. Well, we didn't do it this year, but start with us for a week. And so it's very interesting because some of them, they don't even know yet that they want to be teachers, but somewhere along the line, professors like you, teachers like you with experience recommended them to go and even sponsor them to go. And so then when they get over there, they get to interview veteran teachers. And so once they start getting all this idea, believe me, by the end of the week, they all want to be teachers. They all want to be world language teachers. And so we've had Denise, I think you've attended, Elena, and some other teachers that have attended the summer seminar. So when it comes to recruitment, we all have to be, it has to be a team effort. It cannot just be, it takes a village. They say that, and it is true. One person cannot do it. But nowadays, we're very lucky to have the internet, so connect, to have those networks of teachers and invite them to different activities so that they can go. Now, and when it comes to, preparation, I'm not familiar with the if there's a CSET piece in Portuguese. I know in Spanish, we can add that. We can add that. So when a teacher has a credential and they're lucky enough to have knowledge of the language and they do this preparation courses, they can take the CSET and add that to their credential too. And keeping the teachers, there's a variety of affiliates, associations that are, of course, it's going to require for the teachers, especially the new teachers, to take some of their own time to prepare themselves better. But CLTA offers conferences, they offer webinars. We offer, also here locally, the Central California World Language Project, we offer those, especially to the new teachers. And it's not just for like, okay, it's only Spanish teachers. No, we serve teachers from Portuguese. We've had teachers from Portuguese, Punjabi, Hmong, French, of course, Spanish. But the technology tools that we train them with, it serves all the languages. And so then there's also, of course, the ACTFO, which is the national organization that also provides staff development for them. And so CABE, I'm sure, CABE, a lot of the bilingual. And so they have all of that. And of course, you are familiar with Star Talk also, who it's a great organization for teachers, that the languages. And I'm not sure if Portuguese is still part of Star Talk, but I think if there's some changes in there.
Unfortunately, it dropped out and we're trying to put it back in.
Yes.
I'm going to go to Professor Alvin here because he has recommended some of his students to participate in a summer program that Nancy was talking about. And I think he should share, if it made a difference in those students that attended, did they come back motivated to become teachers? So can you give us a report on how you went about identifying those students to become teachers and doing a recommendation, and what was the follow-up?
Yeah, I had, I think the two last years, or 3 last years, we had sent some students to that. And the question that I always ask myself is, there is job for Portuguese. And this is it's kind of odd that you have job, but you don't have people to apply. So I ask myself, what's so unattractive about teaching Portuguese, or about teaching, that we could, in a way, advertise? Or how can we turn this into a more attractive? My students, they always tend to go to these really exciting moments about, embracing something. And after some time, somehow the interest is lost. I think we need to use more inclusion. We need to bring an Asian friend to a festa, or we need to bring a Latino friend to a Brazilian carnival. We need to make sure that the Portuguese language that we offer, it's just not something to differentiate a Portuguese from Brazil, from a Portuguese from whatever. Because I think that's what sometimes I hear my students say, is that, yes, I'm learning Portuguese, but what I'm gonna do with it? Yeah. Mr. Nuno Prata talked about Macau and the high demand for Portuguese. And I wonder why why isn't this call arriving or getting to the final point where it should get? My guess is that we still need to connect better.
Isabel, you've had a lot of success with homegrown teachers. How do you persuade them to go into teaching and then hiring them, convince them to come back and teach in your district?
Yeah, actually, as people were talking, that's kind of what I was thinking is, you know, when I look at general recruitment for the district, and I think all of us would say this, even though we advertise on EdJoin and it goes all over the world, who really stays in your district? It's people who live in your district, who are committed to your community and live in your district. I'd say, you know, within driving range, but, you know, it's people who want to be there. It's people who are committed. And so even though you can post all these things on EdJoin, and, you know, for example, we did, because we were looking for a Portuguese teacher, I really think just like in the regular recruitment that I look at when I'm searching for any position, it's really looking at local talent. And there's people that don't know they have gifts. There are many students that I'll see engaged in some community activity, or I'm out and about and I'll say, gosh, that person has a great personality to be a teacher. So it's sharing that that excitement that I have for education and how great education's been to me, and to say, hey, have you ever thought about being a teacher? Because let me tell you, what you did here and here is so awesome. Do you know how many kids you could influence? Do you know what an impact you could have on your community and all of that? And I think we need to do the same thing with our, you know, if we're looking for specifically Portuguese language, is we have to look at those kids who have kids, you know, people, you know, obviously not kids, because, you know, people ready to move into the field or that maybe are in another field. And, you know, we have some good examples of people who weren't necessarily in the educational field, but we began to see something in them that we thought, I think they might be pretty darn good as a teacher. And so you begin to talk about it. And I think eliminate the barrier of, o meu português então, para ensinar português, I can't teach Portuguese. My Portuguese is not that good. And to then say, but you know, it'll get there. And if you're committed and if you really want to do it, you can definitely teach Portuguese 1. And in Portuguese 2, all you have to do is stay one chapter ahead of the kids. That's really what teaching is about. So don't be nervous about it. It's okay if you make some grammatical mistakes. That's not the end of the world. Because I think sometimes we want these, you know, teachers who have this wonderful language and they're just, oh, native-like speakers. Those people don't exist, or they're few and far between. Or if we bring those people, even, you know, there are wonderful teachers who have come from Brazil and Portugal, but there's a lot of pedagogy mismatch that I find when I'm recruiting those people. They have great language. So sometimes I'm in an interview committee, I'm looking at someone, it's like, wow, awesome language. This is going to be great. And I'm thinking, but you know what? I don't think high school kids are going to connect with this person. I don't think they have the pedagogy that's going to help them get through that. And in the long run, if a high school kid does not connect to a teacher, you can be the best darn teacher. You can have the best darn language. Your program's going to die. So to me, it's we invest in those that are local. And I'm not saying necessarily Hillmar, but I'm thinking, you know, in the Valley, who are people that I know that I can bring, that I can invest in, that love kids and want to love the culture, want to grow. So I think it's sometimes we create our own barriers. Well, that person's Portuguese, you know, that's just not going to be good enough. How are they ever going to teach Portuguese 3? Well, you know what? Somebody believed in me. I had no idea what teaching bilingual was about. And they told me I was supposed to teach Portuguese bilingual. Oh my gosh. I had the Portuguese that my mom had taught me at home, but I certainly didn't have the Portuguese I needed. But eventually it came. And I wouldn't say it's still great, but you know, we have to not, I don't want to say put those people down, but we have to encourage that development and not to put anyone on the spot. But I think Michelle's a perfect example of that. It's the, you know, she worked with us in Star Talk and I saw her in other activities and I knew she had the passion. So you begin that little discussion of, hey, I'm thinking, have you thought about this? And what about that? And, you know, encourage them and just provide that, and then provide the teacher shadowing, I think is important. So, hey, come on down. I'd love you to come watch, you know, Edwina teach, or do you want to come down and watch Mrs. Costa in our kindergarten, you know, Portuguese program, or hey, come and do this. You know, it's providing those opportunities where they can walk in and they go, wow, this is really a cool place to be. I think I could do this. So I think part of it, we create our own barriers. So I think I do believe in locally grown. I think that's the people who are going to stay with us. And honestly, if I'm going to invest heavily my time, I'd like it to be someone that stays with us. Now, I also want them to grow. And our, last Portuguese teacher is a perfect example. She stayed with us, did a great things for our program. And it was time for her to fly. It was time for her to go somewhere else and have other opportunities. That's great. But now I want to bring someone else that, is going to create that. So I do definitely believe in investing in local and creating that passion and that excitement for wanting to be in this wonderful educational system that we're in.
Isabel, I have your superintendent emeritus planned for you. You can be our recruiter. Your passion comes through the screen so passionately. Oh my God. And you alluded to what Professor Alvin just said. We need to be inclusive. We bring people along. Not everybody's going to have everything on day one on the job. And, it's either the pedagogy or is it the language? Nobody's going to be, there 100%. But if that person is willing to grow and lands in a place like Hilmar that is willing to invest in people and do the necessary professional development, that person is going to blossom. Isabel, you wanted to add a thought. Go ahead.
I did. And this ties back to what some of the, the other groups I've been listening to the conference. And so, the Portuguese organizations were talking about that. It's, if you criticize every young person or every person that's new coming in, that they're not doing it the way they should, or they're not meeting that bar, they're going to disappear. So
yes. Just
like the Portuguese organizations need to be inclusive and say, you know what, there's a good seed here. And so we're going to move forward with that. We're going to validate and value. That's the same thing in our field. It's the same exact thing. We just need to validate and value.
I'm going to go to Lucy, and then Michelle, you're going to have the last word. Okay, Lucy?
I completely agree. I think that our Portuguese teachers that are teaching at our district right now, I don't think they probably saw themselves as Portuguese teachers originally. And they're all doing a wonderful job. And I think it's exactly what you said. It's that for high school, that engagement piece, that passion, you have to be able to relate to kids. Because if you cannot relate to kids, they don't care how much you know, they want to know how much you care, right? Goes something like that. So I completely agree. You said it super well. I think that, as a principal and as now an assistant superintendent, you always look for that person. Who is that person who has that right personality, who's going to be able to grow that program, who's going to be able to engage kids, and who's going to be able to flourish. And I know that in our district, we had Mr. Borges, who was definitely an example of that. He has great engagement strategies. He gets the kids involved. They love being in his class. They love learning about the culture. And so I know that while I was principal at Tulare Western, I had our Valina go watch him. And I was very excited that he was willing to mentor our new teachers. And I believe Clem went to go watch him also. And even Bruna got to go watch him. Because I think it's important to learn and to see and to be able to experience. And those mentorships are extremely important. Because, I was in a classroom at one time too. Sometimes you're just having a bad day and you think, oh my goodness, I'm doing it all wrong. I don't know what I'm doing. And having that mentor to tell you, no, you're not. We all have these days. You're always going to have bad days at some time. Just keep on going. You're going to be great. Just don't give up. One bad day, put it behind you, move forward. And I think that's what our teachers, our Portuguese teachers, any teacher needs that. They need that person that they can confide in, that can support them and can help them grow as they go along. So Isabel said it perfectly.
Michelle, what would it take to recruit more Michelles or young people like you to join our profession?
I think Isabel said it perfectly. I've taught Portuguese. I taught Portuguese to lower levels, elementary students, and it wasn't as intimidating because they're young. And if I said something wrong, I have the language that my parents taught me. And I took Portuguese in high school. I didn't have the opportunity to take it in college. They didn't have it at Stanislaus at the time. I think just having that person that has the confidence in you, like Isabel and the staff at Hilmar High, I think that is very important. Before this, I was a high school counselor. So still in education, but I kind of jumped a little bit. And it was I was a little nervous, but again, just having the people that have the confidence and the faith in me, that motivates me to do my best, to want to do my best and influence other students to want to embrace the Portuguese language and culture and spread it with more people.
Absolutely. Well, that's all it takes. It's a lot of encouragement, a lot of support, a lot of mentoring. All of you said it. We're out of time. Denise has been very good to me, allowed me to go beyond time. But I want to thank all of you for sharing your thoughts. I think we picked up a lot of good ideas here for how to not only to sustain, but to expand and bridge out and bring more Portuguese into the public schools, as well as supporting our community schools, because we can never forget those, because those are those are the start of the continua. You know, the community schools, you know, reach the students in the community, and then we can channel them into our public schools, and then our public schools can build those partnerships or those pathways that Lucy was talking about, and they will end up Professor Alvin's class, and in Fresno State, and in San Diego State, and all the other, and then we will have students that will go into the credential program. But I think with Portugal's support, with our own, you know, policy makers' support, with the support of the Luso American Education Foundation, FLAD, and all the other organizations behind us, I see a bright future for the teaching and learning of Portuguese in California and beyond. So Denise, it's back to you. Or is it Eusebio?
Yeah, it's me. Thank you, Duarte. Thank you so much. I appreciate your all your work and your efforts to putting this panel together. I want to thank all of the distinguished panelists. I mean, it was great. It was great to have all this wealth of information put forth. Thank you so much for your commitment to the Portuguese language throughout California. It's striking to me that we all have that as Portuguese becomes, you know, a global language also for our students. It is a global language, as we mentioned in the first opening session. However, sometimes we look at it as a language only for our kids or our cousins or the Portuguese kids to learn, or those who have Portuguese background. But as many of you mentioned, and as Renato mentioned, and also Lucy, I mean, the majority of our students nowadays in most of the high school programs, Luis, you know, certainly in the district, that's 85% Latin. So it is the Hispanic community that is feeding the Portuguese language schools as far as the Portuguese courses at these, especially at the high school level. And I can tell you in college, which is another issue that we need to discuss one day, because that's one of the things that perturbs me. I mean, I've been teaching a COS for about 20 years, but with this new kind of venture at Fresno State, I teach sometimes one course, sometimes two. I want to actually step back, but I'm asked to do it, and I enjoy the classroom immensely. Maybe I'm not as good as I once was, but I still enjoy it. And so the idea that, for example, last semester I had 29 students take in my one class of Portuguese 1, and I only had 2 who were of Portuguese background. Two. Okay. There were another 3 or 4 who were of different ethnicities, but 24 of them were Spanish speakers, natives of Spanish speakers. And I've always said this, you know, to friends that I've dealt with in when I was in my high school career, that, you know, we owe it to the native Spanish speakers to give them the opportunity to learn a third language. And I say that the same thing to all of the Portuguese students who we don't have any longer, as much as Lucy and Isabel and Luis and Michelle and Renato know, but especially those of Portuguese Azorian background. We know that, you know, when I started teaching Portuguese, I mean, you know, there were students who knew how to speak Portuguese. My Portuguese 4 students, we read Contos from Vitorino Mezio like no problem, you know. That became challenging as the years went by, because so the idea that, and I used to tell these kids, learn Spanish so you can be trilingual. you know Portuguese already. You can read and write it. Instead of taking Portuguese 1, 2, 3, and 4, take Portuguese 4, and then go into Spanish. And so I believe that it's in such an area that we have such strong Latin community, Latino community, that we really need to focus on those students. But at the university level, we also need to focus on our own a little bit, because I find it appalling that I only have 2 students, and this semester I only have 3. So it's not much better. And Fresno State, I can tell you, has literally hundreds, if not thousands of students, with 25,000 students. I know there's got to be at least 1,000 who are of Portuguese background. So we need to kind of move in that direction as well. Lots of different things, obviously. But I want to thank all of you. I think, as Duarte said, we have a lot to build upon. And I think that hopefully we can convince other school districts, some of your connections. I know Lucy has lots of connections in the South Valley, and I know Isabel. And it's sometimes takes,
and Nancy can bring it to Visalia.
And Nancy can bring it into Visalia. And we need to convince Victor, who is Portuguese in Hanford, to have Portuguese at Hanford High School. We actually have a teacher there already, Adam Jameson, who has passed the Portuguese test, and who's a Spanish teacher. So we need to convince these school districts where there's Portuguese, because most of our programs, as Isabel knows, many years ago, started because there was a Portuguese teacher. I mean, when it was in Cerritos, our good friend Humberto Freitas was a history teacher, and then all of a sudden, 3 years later, he's teaching all Portuguese because they said, "Hey, you can teach Portuguese," And so sometimes it's, if we can find a history teacher or an algebra teacher, as Louise, in junior high, and bless you for teaching junior high. I had a friend of mine tell me the other day something interesting. It's at the age bracket where sometimes even their parents are kind of questioning if they like them that much. That was the best I've seen from junior high description. So anyway, thanks to all of you. The last word will be from Eduardo Eusebio, but I wanted to let you know, I should be ashamed of this, but I'm going to do it anyway, commercial, which is Fresno State is kicking off tomorrow something called the Portuguese crowdfunding. So if you find an extra $10 in your pocket, we'd sure appreciate it. And it's going to be for something that has to do with us. So we've developed a partnership with the linguistics department at Fresno State. There are a group of students, I believe there are 9, in one linguistic master's classroom. They're going to be researching in the Portuguese community throughout the valley, and we are going to create what we have termed as Portuguese language experts, not necessarily teachers also for the classroom, that's important, but the idea is to, through storytelling, have members of our community work with the linguistics department. We'll be putting forth some workshops, and the idea is for these folks to, at their local Portuguese hall on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, to teach a little bit of Portuguese through a great story. That's as part of who we are as a people. So the research has to be done first, and we thank in the Hub program at Fresno State. It's going to be a great opportunity to have 9 linguistic master students working and researching the Portuguese community. So we're very proud of that. And if you can find a few extra dollars to help us, we have an objective of 5,000. I know that there's Portuguese people in the community that could probably write a check and still have a lot of money left over, but sometimes they don't do that. But we'll take anywhere from $10 to whatever amount. And now Eduardo Eusebio will go ahead and give us the closing thoughts about it. He doesn't like that I
or to write a check for 5,000, right?
Well, he certainly was one of those Portuguese that could. And
donate a cow, does that help?
Well, if you have a cow, that works for us too. But Eduardo was one of the founding members of the Los American Education Foundation Conference. Again, over 4 decades ago. And he doesn't like me to say that, but in religious terms, Eduardo is to the conference, is Moses to the conference. I mean, he was right there from the beginning. He began it all. So Eduardo, our Moses of the Los American Education Foundation, tell us some wise words.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, the panelists. Thank you, Duarte. It's a pleasure to be again with Isabel. I knew Isabel before she was hyphenated. And and thank you for your comments. Rewarding to hear that the foundation inspiring people
Yeah.
to become teachers. You know, I heard the word inspiring more than once. One was from Michelle, I remember, and I had already written that down because this conference was exactly that, to try to inspire people to become teachers. You know, when we first began, was precisely, there weren't very many teachers, really. We wanted to have teachers. So, and then of course came bilingual education. So there was a matter of not only teaching Portuguese, but teaching content in Portuguese, as you all know. So, and it's developments, obviously, but we're always looking to recruit teachers. And many of them, is like Isabel said, they got a scholarship and went to Coimbra or to Lisbon, and they became teachers. We like Vamberto, from history or whatever he was doing to Portuguese and so forth. And those phenomena are still existing, and I guess we need more. We continue to push to have Portuguese as a world language, really. And if it's up on us, don't expect the Italians to do it or the German. It has to be the Portuguese,
Yes.
right? And I keep saying this, and we have such a cadre of people out there. Now there are more than one Moses. We all went through this for many, many years. And of course, Denise is one of the inspiring ones in putting these together. You know, this topic of tonight, the Portuguese language teaching in California or language teaching in general, that was basically the content of the conference, with one component which I think we're missing, and that is the community component. That I don't know how we can bring that in a Zoom, but I know that Denise, I mentioned, he has a big head in a good sense of the word. He's always thinking about things, and I'm glad he is thinking about it, and usually convinces me and others to get along and go along, you know? So let's think about how the community component, how can we do that, you know? Because it's great. This conference, I believe, is going really well. We've been able to communicate ideas and ideals and what have you. Of course, having a hug, you know, and having an hospitality room, which is also very important. We miss. I know Duarte and Isabel and those that went to the previous conference.
That was the only reason I went to the conference.
Here we go. Here we go. So we're missing that, but you know, you can always go to your liquor cabinet and have one after this, right? So again, thank you very much. Appreciate it. It was such a pleasure to be with you at this for these an hour and a half. Actually, this was shorter than yesterday, and the time went so fast. Thank you, Duarte, for being the moderator. Thank you, Denise, and thank you all. And for all of you, a big hug. Okay.
Thank
you, Eduardo. And as
Cheers.
we end, thank you to the panelists. It's
Thank
really
you,
inspiring to have all of you be part of this. Thank you for your time. I know you're all very, very busy. I want to shout out to our interim dean of the College of Arts and Humanities at Fresno State, who is one of the attendees, Dr. Honora Chapman, who is wonderful supporter of Portuguese and all language teaching at Fresno State and throughout the Valley. Kudos to Dr. Chapman for taking the time to listen to us. I want to thank all of you as well. And Eduardo, when you said the community involved in this, the last 3 days have been dedicated to halls, to folklore, to Philharmonicas. I think as Moses, you're only concentrating on those 10 commandments, and we had a little bit more than that.
I thought about that, but you know, it's that live commitment, that touching and hugging. That is, I guess, that I was talking about.
We can't do that for now. But anyway, thank you so much. And Duarte, again, thank you for putting all this together.
Thank you.
And enjoy it. And you can go home, as you are most of you are home already. You can go to the liquor cabinet. As
Isabel is at work.
I think she is. I see that. But you can go to the liquor cabinet. And the hospitality, and for sure, Isabel, will be the hospitality, because you and I both know that sometimes it was the hostility suites, not the hospitality. Okay, yeah. Thank you all so much. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for Portuguese.
I know. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.